Hi fans, and welcome to this week's edition of St. Vincent football coach Bob Colbert's video blog here on stvincent.edu. I'm Jim Berger, joined as always by Coach Colbert, and we thank you for joining us again this week. Well, this past week, the Bearcats continued a brutal stretch of schedule as they faced the Geneva College Golden Tornadoes for the second time this season, completing a rare home-and-home series. And as they have in the past 3 games, the Bearcats hung tough against a very strong Geneva team. The teams traded the lead 3 times through the first 3 quarters before Geneva benefited from a couple maybe questionable officiating calls and really seized control of the game in the fourth quarter to pull away for the 38-20 win. Coach, I know you had to be happy with the way the team really seemed to control play for the first really 3.5 quarters. How would you grade your team's performance this week?
Overall, it was a good performance. We started off slow on offense. First 2 possessions, fumble the ball, tipped or dropped ball, results in interception. Our defense responded well, though, particularly that first fumble. They forced a field goal attempt, and it wasn't any good. So I'd have to say I'm really pleased with the defensive effort to start the ball game. Our offense started to get it together a little bit better as the game went along. And as you said, we actually took the lead. There was a turning point in the ball game when they returned the kickoff. And yeah, it might have been questionable, but the bottom line is we got to make a tackle, and it's not even in question. So I take responsibility for our kids not making tackles on that kickoff rather than maybe an officiating call.
Well, you said the Bearcat defense turned in another strong performance, and I read somewhere that Geneva head coach Gino DeMarco said that was one of the best defensive game plans he's seen in a long time, and that's really been the story the last 3, 4, 5 weeks. The St. Vincent defense has really been holding its own against some really strong offensive opponents. What's that say for the defense? What do you think the key has been for that unit?
They have played well ever since the Grove City game. I think our defense has played really well, and I appreciate Coach DeMarco saying that was a good game plan. And game plans are great, but you know what it says about our players is they're playing tough and they're playing hard. And you can have great game plans, but if they're not executed, then they're worthless. But I think our players, particularly on defense, have played extremely well, maybe to the best of their ability. I tell our players, though, we don't have a lot of room for error, so we almost have to be perfect in order to pull off a win at times. But yeah, it's been a tough stretch for everybody. The teams we played the last 3 ball games, I believe their combined records are 20-1. That's a tough stretch, but I think our players have hung in there with some tough competition. 2 playoff teams, and WJ and Thomas More are playing for the championship this week, basically. So yeah, I'm pleased with the effort that our players have given, particularly in the last 3 ball games. And I have to give credit to our defensive staff. They've done a nice job of planning against 3 different types, actually 4 different types of offenses in Grove City, Thomas More, WJ, and then Geneva. So you get 4 different types of offenses. You got to be on top of your game. Our defensive staff has done a nice job of planning.
We talked about the brutal strength of schedule over the last 3 or 4 weeks, the 20-1 combined record. W&J and Thomas More both nationally ranked, and I'm sure Geneva would probably get some national attention as well. They're a provincial school like St. Vincent. What does it do for the team? How does it benefit the team, St. Vincent's team, playing against such strong competition week in and week out like this?
I hope it builds their confidence in knowing that they can compete. That was, again, one of the objectives we wanted to have, was to compete and narrow the gap between us and some of the teams in the upper part of our conference. And I think we've done that. You look at the score and you say, well, geez, that wasn't true. But they didn't pull away from us until the kickoff return, and then we turn around and fumble the ensuing kickoff. So I think it says that I hope it says to our players, you can compete against the better teams in this league and have that confidence. And if you treat every team the same, then eventually it's going to result in some victories for us.
In addition to Thomas More, W&J, and Geneva, it seems like the conference is really, there's a lot of parity in the league. A lot of teams are on the 500 mark, and a lot of teams are pretty skillful. The offenses of Waynesburg and Grove City, the tradition at Westminster, Bethany's offense is putting some points on the board. What do you think about the strength of this conference overall since the Bearcats joined it for the 2007 season?
Well, I knew it was a good conference coming when I took the job because I played against several of the teams in the NCAA playoffs when I was at Bridgewater. Played against Waynesburg when they were in the playoffs. Played WJ, I think, 3 times in the playoffs. Played Teal in the playoffs. So I knew it was a strong conference coming in here, and I haven't been disappointed. When you have 2 teams go to the playoffs from your conference, that speaks well of the teams that you're playing, and know that you have to bring your A game every week, or else you're going to be left in the dirt. So it's a strong conference. I think it's respected throughout the country. I'm on a committee that talks about rankings and that with the Division III and the southern region, and our league is well respected. We get good compliments, and WJ, I think, went to the quarterfinals last year, so that says something about how good they are.
Now we enter the final 3 weeks of the year with a game this week, followed by a bye week, and then the season finale November 14th against Bethany. Coach, as we wrap up this regular season, what are some of the things the staff's going to work on in practice with the players?
Well, we're not wrapping it up yet, and I say that because I'm not letting our players think that we're ending it so soon, because we've got 2 good opponents to play yet, and I want them to approach it the same way we approached Thomas More, the same way we approached WJ, the same way we approached Geneva. We got to say that this is a playoff game for us. We've got to say that these are games that we have to win, and we have to give great effort. That's our concentration, and really our concentration is on nothing else than Teal at this point. That's our next ball game, and we'll talk about other things as we go along. But right now our concentration is on Teal and beating Teal and going up there and playing again to the best of our ability. It's our responsibility to get them to respond and to bring them back. I asked the team last night, do you have anything left in your tank? Because they've expended themselves the last 3-4 weeks. And they answered yes, they do, so we'll get ready to play another great game on Saturday.
Now, this Saturday, the Bearcats will travel to Greenville, Pennsylvania to take on the Teal College Tomcats. And it's the first time a St. Vincent football team has played in Greenville since 1958. Teal and St. Vincent have done battle with Chuck Noll Field each of the past 2 years. Teal struggling a little bit, 2-5 record under first-year coach Kurt Reiser. However, the Teal offense, once again, is one of the stronger offensive units, led by quarterback Willie Beauvais, who's in the top 3 in the conference in both the total offense, and passing touchdowns. What do you know about Teal up to this point, and what can we expect from him, and how are you going to prepare the team?
Willie is having a great year again. He's a threat, and their offense, they've been able to put up some points. You're right, against some good opponents. They didn't lose to Thomas More until the last couple of minutes of the ball game. It was a 21-14 ball game until Thomas More scored late to take the lead and kind of cement the deal there. So they're going to be very, very good and very tough opponent. What do we expect? There's somewhat their running game is a little bit like ours, power running. Their passing game, again, a little bit like ours, similar formation. So it'll be a week of preparation that we can kind of practice against each other a little bit to help familiarize ourselves with their offense and their defense. Their defense is similar to ours in terms of our base defense, so it's easy for our guys to line up and give us a good look. But I know they're a little disappointed with their record up there, but it's another game, and everybody's 0-0 at this point, so let's go play.
Well, Coach, I wish you luck this Saturday, fans. This week's game will be aired live online at redzonemedia.com. Kickoff at 1:30, airtime at 12:50. Well, that does it for this week's episode. For Coach Colbert, thank you again for joining us. I'm Jim Berger. Take care. We'll talk to you next week.